We're here today at Pilot Butte Cemetery. I'm going to be taking you on a tour today. I started researching Pilot Butte because I read a snippet about it in a book about haunted places of Oregon. And in this book, it said that people reported seeing blue orb lights, floating amongst the headstones at nighttime. And I was curious to see if there were any stories to explain the blue lights. Any kind of ghost stories, legends, to explain these mysterious blue lights. I started researching it, and I'll try to get us away from the traffic. The cemetery is on a main road, right off of a main road. And while I did find that there weren't any specific ghost stories or anything to explain the blue lights, I did uncover a lot of interesting stories about the residents here at Pilot Butte Cemetery. Now, Pilot Butte Cemetery is the primary cemetery in Bend, Oregon. It is actually comprised of two cemeteries. Pilot Butte, which is the side that I'm on right now, and Greenwood Cemetery, which is on the other side. And they have both grown so large that they essentially make up one large cemetery now. And it is so beautiful. You can hear all the birds. It's so peaceful here. So many people take walks, ride their bikes, walk their dogs in this cemetery because there are many roads through the cemetery. It's really large. I'll put up a map so that you can see. But it's just a really wonderful place to spend some quiet time. It was established in 1914. However, there are graves here that are older than 1914. I imagine they started burying people in this area, and then eventually they established it as a formal cemetery. But you can hear all the birds. I've seen deer wandering through here, tons of squirrels. Just a really gorgeous cemetery. And if the blue lights were supposed to indicate a haunting, I can't imagine it would be a negative one because it's so beautiful and peaceful here. Now we come upon the first story that I would like to tell you and show you here. This is the final resting place of Susan Wickersham. When Susan was 17 years old in 1973, she was abducted. In 1976, they found her remains a few miles south of town. Her case has never been solved, and the killer is still at large. Susan is one of Bend's longest, most lingering cold cases, and they are actively investigating it to this day. I've also posted a video about Susan's story if you'd like to go watch that video to hear her entire story and the case and the investigation that's going on so far. I'll link that in the eye above so you can go see her complete story. But Susan is one of the many residents residing here at Pilot Butte Cemetery, and she is buried here with her mother Sharon and her father Roy. Okay, so we will continue with our walk. Maybe if we are lucky, we'll see some deer today. But there are So many beautiful and phenomenal headstones here in Pilot Butte Cemetery. If you want to go investigate the blue lights at nighttime, I would be careful because there is a significant homeless population here in Bend, Oregon, and you never know when you're going to stumble upon someone's sleepy place. Here is the main intersection where you can see the cemetery map up in the distance. It's just a really massive cemetery. Coming upon we still have, it's so expansive. We are coming upon our second notable resident of Pilot Butte Cemetery. And this is the final resting spot of Lynn Doyle Cooper. Lynn Cooper is significant because he is one of the men suspected of being D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper, in the early 70s, hijacked a plane, received his ransom, and parachuted out of the plane, never to be seen again. They found a little bit of the money, but they never found D.B. Cooper, and they never solved that mystery. Now, Lynn Cooper's niece, many years later, I think it was in 2011, she remembered hearing some conversations between her uncle, Lynn, and another uncle, and she believes that Lynn Cooper could very well be D.B. Cooper and has submitted items of his to the FBI for DNA and fingerprint analysis. Maybe one day we'll know for sure if Lynn was D.B. Cooper. So if you're interested in D.B. Cooper's story, this might be a good little trip to take if you're visiting the sites associated with D.B. Cooper. Now we are going to continue our hike because it really is a hike around this cemetery. It really is. It's just so large, which I imagine is why people come here to do their exercise, to walk their dogs, let their kids ride their bikes. Okay, here is one of the beautiful monuments in Pilot Butte Cemetery. And this is dedicated to the friars of St. Francis of Assisi. It's just this beautiful Celtic monument. Now here is we're in the middle of Pilot Butte, and this is the plot map. We are on our way to our next story. Oh my God, the air is so fresh and crisp around here. It's a really gorgeous day too. Ooh. Okay, here we go. All right. Our next tale This is the final resting spot of George Brosterhous. George died in 1914 while he was helping to build the Reed School in downtown Bend. He fell off of the top floor down the massive space in the middle of the building that would hold the staircase. He is said to haunt the Reed School, which is now the Deschutes Historical Museum. And I've also posted a video about the Deschutes Historical Museum. It's stories of its haunting and the complete story of George, along with article clippings documenting that he did die in the building. I will also link that video and put that in the description box if you're interested in exploring the haunted places of Oregon and potentially going on a visit to see if you can make contact with George there at the Deschutes Historical Museum. Okay. Now here we are exiting Pilot Butte and coming into Greenwood Cemetery. And right as we enter Greenwood Cemetery, we're going to come upon our final story. And looks like a robin was visiting one of these men. And here are the resting places of Edward Nickols, Dewey Morris, and Harry Leroy Wilson. These men were brutally murdered in 1924. It's another one of Oregon's oldest cold cases because they never actually caught the killers of these three men. These are sometimes referred to as the Trapper murders or the Lava Lake murders. And these three men were working out by Lava Lake in a cabin, trapping. They were out for a couple of weeks when one of their acquaintances, co-workers, came to check on them and found that they were gone and there was evidence that something had happened to them. And they were found frozen in the lava lake. They had to be removed from the ice, and they were brought here to Bend, where they were interred here in Greenwood Cemetery. The police at the time, they do feel like they know who committed these murders, but there just wasn't enough evidence to convict someone of the crime. But I eventually will be doing a complete story on the Lava Lake murders, and we can explore together what we feel happened, who the suspects are, and what we think might have occurred to these three men. But they rest here in Greenwood Cemetery. And I haven't yet been all the way to the entrance of Greenwood Cemetery. I'll take you there now, cut across so that we can see what this mausoleum looks like over here. There is Pilot Butte right there. So if you're wondering what this cemetery is named after, this is Pilot Butte. There are trails you can hike all the way up to the top. So it's a local hiking area. And it's not a long hike either.